Hello everyone, Average Joe here, coming at you today, not from the trail, but from my kitchen. That's right, we are going to, quote Monty Python, go for something completely different. I recently put up my Honey Bourbon Baklava on Facebook. I got a little baking out of the system for being on lockdown, and I had a few people ask for the recipe, so today we are going to show you how to make my Honey Bourbon Baklava. First things first, get your flat sheets of Philly dough from the freezer section over in the pastry section 24 hours before you use this. Set it in the fridge for 24 hours, one full day. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, if you rush it, you're going to mess this dough up. So the reason I'm doing this video is because of this stuff. So, going to get to that in a second. You want your pecans? I use about a pound of pecans. Then I put in 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and all this will be posted below in the video's comment section. You can get them diced, pre-diced. I prefer to get them halved. I get to use my grandma's old slap chop to beat the crap out of them. So we're going to mix all this up, add the cinnamon, and then we're going to start with the Philly dough. So, before we start melting our butter, we're going to take one of these sticks of butter and we're just going to do a quick coating around the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to melt these 3 sticks of butter in a pot on the oven. So we'll have 3 sticks of melted butter. Yes, 3 sticks. That's what makes this so good. So we'll take our stick, just do a quick coating on the inside. Never, ever go too much on this. Just adds more flavor to it. I'm going to speed this up real quick in fast motion. Alright, so take these, throw them in a pot. I prefer to melt my butter on the stove. You can melt it in the microwave, whichever way. So we'll get all that melted and then we'll start layering our Philly dough. So we've got our 9x13 pan buttered up. I went ahead and put some cinnamon on this. Make sure you get a good mixture in there. You can also just use a spoon or something and stir it around. Get all that cinnamony goodness around those pecans. Now, for the whole reason we're making this video, our Philly dough. So, this stuff is extremely temperamental. This is what deters most people away from making this stuff. But once you get to playing around with it, it's not that bad. The trick, and I've seen a few people talk about this and they're dead wrong, but lay it out. Be gentle with it. Because it's thin. It's extremely dry and flaky right now. If you start messing around with this stuff, it's going to break apart on you. Take a clean towel and lay it across it, damp. Gets a little bit of moisture. Yes, I know y'all love that word, moist. But gets a little bit of moisture onto the dough and it makes it a little easier to work with. So, got that going on. Our butter's about melted and we're going to let this sit a couple minutes, and then I'd say about 3 or 4 minutes. You just let it sit on there and then we'll get started on layering it. Okay, so we're going to pull our cloth back. It's a lot easier to work with. For the first 2 sheets, yes, 2 at a time. It's a roll of 2s. Just gently pick it up. Just be gentle. And with the first one, you can take it and see how far you need to trim it. It's also a nice reminder, go ahead and preheat your oven for 350. So we know we need it about there. I'm going to go ahead and trim off some of this extra. And there's enough on these sheets that if you mess up 1 sheet or 2, for one, hardly anyone's really going to notice. But lay it down And for the first bottom layer, we're going to do 3 sheets of 2. So get you a little bit of butter, just a little bit of a splash in between each sheet. So it's just 3/6 of melted butter, no extra salt, no nothing fancy. There's enough salt in this crap anyways. Just use the base of your spoon to kind of run it around a bit. Just take that back. And do more sheets. You can fold it over a little bit at the end. It's not going to hurt it. Because when you get to the top of the 9x13, it usually stretches out anyways. And I'll fast forward this part right here, so you don't have to watch all the thing in real time. Okay. So now we're at the spot where we start adding our pecans. So with clean hands, get a handful, just make you a nice little dusting across it. Try not to make it too deep because you are going to layer sheets on top of this. You can even get your hands dirty if you want. Spread them out a little bit. It's a messy dish to eat. It's a messy dish to make. Okay. So now we go back, add 2 more sheets. And just like the ones before, we're just going to butter it, but we're only doing 1 layer. Come back, same thing as before, just a handful and just spread it out. This is why I like using the hand dicer or slap chop, the original slap chop. It's because you get chunks, but you also get a little bit of powder, which adds with the flavor. It's just like life, you don't know what you're going to get in each bite. Go back for 2 more layers. Just tuck it in. You're tucking in a sweet, sweet child. Now you can go heavy on the butter if you want, but we're going to cut this up, and when it's done baking we pour the sauce in so it fills all the cracks and crevices and just adds more flavor, so you don't really need to overdo it with the butter unless you just want to. Okay. You get to doing this enough, usually you get about 3 good layers. In times like this, you can get 4. And I don't think any of my customers are going to complain about 4. So we're going to do another layer of baklava, of nuts. So I'm going to put on our sheet, throw on some butter. Now when it comes to our last few sheets, just like the base, we're going to try to go for at least 3 sheets. With layers of butter in between each one. And with Philly dough, they know you're going to mess up, so they always have a few extra sheets in here for this project. So if you tear a few, you rip a few, it's okay. There's more. You're good. And they come two rolls to a box too, so always prepare to just make one your first time. And just keep that second roll in the fridge just in case you have to pull it out. And to quote Bob Ross, that'll be just our little secret. No one's gonna know. Your guests don't come over and look in your fridge and go, oh, where's that other roll of Philly dough you had? Odds are they've never messed with it either. So we're gonna add our last 2 sheets. Butter them up. All right. And that concludes the difficult part. So we can take this, dispose of it. So, clean up our mess. And normally when I cut mine, just use a regular little paring knife. First off, I go down diagonal wise, and then I just do 2 straight lines across. And we're going to speed this up because this kind of takes a minute or 2. And before you start cutting, because this dough is a little sticky, neat little trick. Get a little bit of that butter on your fingers, so that way the dough doesn't stick to your fingers as much. So. So take your time, make small cuts, just take your time. It's very therapeutic and very zen-like. So we're going to put this in the oven for 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Most recipes will take you to take it for an hour, but put it in at 45 minutes, check it to see if it's got that golden brown crust, because you don't want to get it too crispy. So we're going to put this in the oven real quick, and we're going to get started on our sauce while it cooks. So our sauce is going to be 16 ounces of honey, and with honey, it takes forever to get out. So I just set that there, let it drain. You're going to do a half a cup of sugar, and then the best part of it, 3/4 of a cup of bourbon to give it that nice honey bourbon flavor. And just a dash of lemon juice. So we're going to let that finish draining, and then we're going to crank it up to a boil. And one thing I will advise, when you boil this, keep an eye on it, because when this stuff boils over, it takes not even just a couple seconds and it'll start to boil over. Then you've got a hot sticky mess all over your stove. So once it starts to reach a boil, stir it, keep an eye, turn it down to simmer, keep an eye on it, pull it off if you have to. Best thing I've done in the past is actually just switch it to another burner and put it on simmer on that other burner and keep an eye on it. So now we've got it turned up, full. Going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a stir to start. And once it starts boiling up, I'll show you what it starts to look like. Already smells good though. Okay, so we start getting some action. Just to show you how beautiful this looks. Smells so good. So we're starting to get our heavy boil. Go ahead and turn the temperature down on it. And just keep an eye on it, because this is why. See how quickly that boils up? So I've already got this burner set on simmer. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to pull this off and let it simmer. Occasionally just stirring it. But I just wanted to show y'all what this looks like, because this will become a quick mess. I've had to clean it up several times. Okay, so we're at that golden brown state. So we're going to go ahead and pull it out. And for the best part, take your sauce while it's nice and warm and just marinate that stuff. And there you go. My honey bourbon baklava. Let that sit, cool for about 4 hours, and serve. Enjoy. And thank you for watching.